Something Carmen has always wanted and dreamed of was to own a dog someday. She really loved animals and all, but dogs especially. The only problem with this was that her mother would not ever approve of her having a dog. In fact, her mother actually hated him. She would not ever allow Carmen to even step foot in the house with one. This really bothered Carmen a lot due to the fact that she's been wanting a dog her whole life. I'll get a dog one day, and when I do, I'll show her that I can care for it all by myself, Carmen would sometimes say. Carmen would never even go and question her mother about owning a dog. Carmen knew exactly how the discussions would always end. Carmen was now in the living room of her home watching television, while her mother was in the kitchen cooking. As Carmen sat on the couch with her face in front of the television screen, she sees a very interesting commercial appear. She saw a dog being hugged and fluffed by its owner. It seemed to Carmen like it was one of those commercials that was advertising dog food. She quickly grabbed the remote nearby and flipped the channel. That's exactly what I needed to see, Carmen thought sarcastically. Carmen let out a loud sigh and sat back on the sofa in disappointment. That advertisement on television has now put her back into the thought of dogs again. You know what? This is it. Today is the day I convinced my mom into letting me get a dog, Carmen thought, standing up off the sofa and trotting towards the kitchen. Carmen's mom instantly spun around as soon as Carmen walked in. Carmen could smell the hot scent of food boiling and frying away. She saw her mom standing over the stove stirring inside of a pot when she first entered the kitchen. Mom, I know we've had this conversation many times, Carmen started. Carmen's mom's face went from a regular expression to an angry and annoyed one. But can you please just give me one shot at owning a dog? Please. It doesn't even have to be a full-grown dog or anything. I'll take a small puppy, just anything. I'll take good care of it and everything. I promise, Carmen continued. Carmen's mom stood in a turned position glaring back at Carmen. She let out a sigh. Carmen, you know I hate dogs and I never liked them, not one bit. If it wasn't for that fact, then you could have one. But since I have a deep hatred for them, you can't have one, Mrs. Rice said. Carmen had felt more angry and disappointed than she had ever been at that moment. If I'm telling you that I'll take care of it, why do you even care? Carmen, you know how I've always felt about dogs. So I don't know why you even continue to bring the discussion up over and over again, Mrs. Rice snapped. Mom, don't you think you should consider giving me at least one chance at being a dog owner, Carmen yelled. Absolutely not. Now unless you want to start discussing something else, you can just get out of here and let me cook in peace, Mrs. Rice replied. Mom, just one shot, Carmen shouted. No. You know what? Just go away. I don't need to get pissed off talking about dogs all day. Carmen let out an angry sigh and began stomping away. Drop the attitude, young lady, because you already knew, Mrs. Rice yelled. Carmen stumped her way back into the living room and threw herself onto the sofa. She sat there frowning, staring into the television screen once again. This is really beginning to get on my damn nerves. Why won't she just trust me and give me a chance? She knows how long I've been trying to get her to let me see what being a dog owner is like. Her frown had tightened up even more when she saw that the same dog food advertisement appear on the screen again. The next evening, Carmen was walking home from school. As always, dogs was inside her thoughts. She was thinking of her desire of owning a dog. This was mostly all she ever thought about when her mind was absent of everything else. She was only a few houses away from reaching home. The sunshine in the neighborhood was quiet as usual. Carmen let out a sigh and whispered, well, I guess until I get a dog in my life will forever be miserable. Not being able to have a dog was killing her. She'd been wanting one her whole life. The only thing preventing her dream from coming true was her mother. If it wasn't for her, Carmen would have it. Carmen's thoughts were interrupted when she felt something on the back of her ankle. She felt something wet and slippery slide across her ankle twice. When Carmen spun around and glanced down, her eyes widened in surprise. There she looked at a white and furry puppy staring up at her, whimpering. Carmen's mood had been instantly boosted up to happiness. "Oh my God. How are you, little fella? I didn't even hear you walk up behind me," Carmen said, squatting and rubbing the top of the dog's head. Carmen smiled and stared into the dog's teal-colored eyes. "You are so cute," Carmen said. "Well, little buddy, too bad I can't keep you," she continued. When Carmen stood back up again and began to walk away, the dog followed behind her and licked the back of her ankle again. Carmen stopped and faced the dog. The dog stood up on its rear legs and placed both its paws on Carmen's left thigh, whimpering. "Sorry, buddy, but you have to stay. There's no way my mom is going to let me keep you," Carmen said, walking away and letting the dog drop down on his front paws. She felt 2 more licks on her ankle for the 3rd time. Carmen spun around and pointed her finger in the dog's face. "No, sit and stay," Carmen told the dog. The dog just stood there and stared up at Carmen. An expression of sadness swept over Carmen's face. As she stood there staring into the dog's face, an idea had popped into her head. "You know what? You're coming home with me. And since your fur is white and pretty and somewhat shines, I'll call you Flash," Carmen said excitedly, picking up the dog and holding it in her arms. "Now listen, if my mom finds out you're in our house, I could get in big trouble. So no barking or leaving the spot I put you in without my permission," Carmen explained, as if the dog could understand her. Carmen began to jog down the street toward her house. Sure glad Mom isn't home from work yet, Carmen thought. She ran all the way down the street until she reached her house. First thing she did was check the driveway to make sure her mom wasn't home yet. She trotted up to the front door of her house and sat Flash down on the porch, reaching into her pocket and grabbing her house key. She quickly inserted the key and swung the door open. "Welcome," Carmen told Flash. Flash slowly trotted into the house and sat down on the floor mat. Carmen smiled down at Flash and picked the dog up again, closing the door behind her. She dashed up the stairs and entered her room, setting the dog down once again. "Here's my room, Flash," Carmen said. Flash let out some high-pitched barks, then began running around the room in circles. Carmen laughed. "Calm down," she said, watching the dog run around. Carmen glanced over at her closet, then back at Flash again. She trotted over to her closet and opened both double doors wide. "I'll say this probably would be a good spot to keep Flash," Carmen thought. "Come here, boy," Carmen told Flash. Flash began dashing towards Carmen in an instant. As soon as Flash had approached Carmen, Carmen said, "Now this is where I will hide you," pointing at the closet. "No barking or making any types of noise when you're in here. Remember, my mom cannot find out you are here," she continued. Flash licked Carmen's ankles a couple times and continued to run around the room. Carmen giggled. "When was the last time you've been inside a house?" Carmen said. "Finally, I have what I've always wanted," she continued. When Carmen heard the sound of blocks being turned downstairs, she quickly chased after Flash and caught him. "My mother is home, so you're going to have to sit in the closet now. Remember, no moving or barking," Carmen whispered, carrying Flash over to her closet. She tossed Flash in and clamped the closet door shut. "Carmen," she heard Mrs. Rice call. "Yeah," Carmen replied through the house. "I'm home." As Carmen began stepping away from the closet, she pointed her finger at the doors and whispered, "Quiet." She then ran out of her room and glanced down the stairs, only to see Mrs. Rice standing at the door. Mrs. Rice stared at Carmen with a suspicious look. Carmen stared back nervously. "Who are you talking to?" Mrs. Rice asked. "What?" Carmen asked. "I heard you say something through the door while I was unlocking it," Mrs. Rice replied. No, I didn't. "Yes, you did," Mrs. Rice said. "You said something about having something you wanted or something like that," Mrs. Rice continued. Carmen hesitated to reply, I was just on the phone." Later that night, Carmen was upstairs in her bedroom getting ready for bed. She was still really excited and hyped up about the dog she secretly owned. She had managed to get through the rest of the day without Mrs. Rice finding out about her secret in the closet. Surprisingly, Flash did not bark or make any noise at all that day. He was lying inside the closet, only resting every time Carmen peeped in on him. Carmen hopped off her bed and and headed over to her closet just as her bedroom door swung open, allowing Mrs. Rice to walk in. Carmen froze and spun around and faced her. "There's my rose-buckled belt," Mrs. Rose exclaimed, walking over to Carmen's dresser. "I've been looking for this for the past 2 days," she continued. Mrs. Rice grabbed a rose-decorated belt off Carmen's dresser and headed back towards the doorway. She stopped and spun around, facing Carmen. Mrs. Rice gave Carmen that same suspicious look again, then trotted out the room. Carmen let out a sigh, then continued to walk towards her closet. When she pried the double doors apart, there she saw Flash lying there, asleep. Carmen smiled and whispered, "Yep, bud, get your rest, because tomorrow is Saturday, and as soon as Mom leaves for work tomorrow, our fun begins." She blew up a kiss at Flash, then clamped the closet doors shut. The next morning, Carmen was awakened by her mother's voice. She heard her bedroom door swing open and the sound of Mrs. Rice's high heels. "Carmen, I'm off to work, so call me if you need anything. When you decide to get up, I have a breakfast casserole waiting in the oven for you. When you take it out, turn the oven off. I'll be back this evening. Here's the phone." Mrs. Rice came and set the phone on Carmen's dresser. Carmen heard Mrs. Rice walk out of her bedroom. She sat up in her bed, stretching and yawning. She could hear the sound of Mrs. Rice's high heels thumping the floor downstairs. As soon as she heard the door downstairs open and close, she hopped out of the bed and headed for the bathroom. After quickly brushing her teeth and slipping on her clothes, she walked out of her bedroom and headed downstairs. Carmen froze when someone had come across her mind. "Man, I haven't even checked in on Flash," Carmen thought. "Well, I guess I will after I eat that casserole." As Carmen trotted down the steps, she began to smell the scent of the casserole in the oven. She gained a confused expression on her face because the casserole didn't smell like it usually would. To her, there was a slight difference in the smell. Carmen sniffed a couple times and whispered to herself, "What different ingredient did Mom add to that casserole?" The further she walked down the steps, the stronger the scent got. It also seemed to get worse to Carmen. Carmen made a disgusted face and began gagging. "Oh my God, that can't be the casserole I've been eating for the past few years. This smell is so disgusting," she thought. Seriously, what did she do different with this dish? Carmen pinched her nose shut with her thumb and index finger, blocking her nostrils from the odor. As she headed towards the kitchen, she was afraid to enter it because of the horrible, putrid smell. When she approached the kitchen and entered, she screamed wildly, standing stiff as a rock. There she saw the oven door open with the casserole lying inside, which had Flash's dead doggy body lying right in the middle of it. Flash had been cooked and blended in with the breakfast casserole. He wasn't white and pearly anymore. He was burned and blackened right along with the casserole. There was also a message written in blood on the wall above that read, "Do not ever sneak another pest into this house again."